Hi and welcome to Introduction to the Share of Allarity Therapeutics. With me today I have the management team of the company, and I will go ahead and give the word to CEO Steve Carcetti, and the word is yours.
Thanks so much, Frank. And first, let me say good afternoon or good morning, and thank you to H.C. Anderson and the whole organization for allowing us to present to you our company, a very exciting company, and it is Allarity Therapeutics. As Frank mentioned, my name is Steve Carcetti. I'm the president and CEO of the company. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is really an exciting company and what we are doing in the world of oncology. We are an oncology company with a very unique diagnostic biomarker that allows us to accurately predict those patients likely to respond to a given cancer therapy. But in addition to that unique biomarker approach, we have therapeutics, a series of oncology agents that we are developing. And so our tagline, as you can see on this first slide, is it's the effort towards personalized cancer care. And so we believe that personalized cancer care is now finally realized as our biomarker diagnostic, which is based on computer algorithms and or computer simulation and modeling, allows us to, in some cases, double and even triple the response rates associated with some exciting chemotherapy and cancer treatments that I'm going to share with you in just a moment. To the next slide, please. We're a public company based on the NASDAQ First North Exchange in Sweden. As a legal company, we're required to have our legal disclaimer, and this represents our legal document regarding any forward-looking statements that I'll be making in today's discussion. Next slide. So the company in a snapshot is really a new therapeutic company that is addressing high unmet need. We were founded in Denmark in 2004. We have 6 products in our pipeline. These are therapeutic products that have been acquired and or in license from a number of big pharma companies, and we develop those products in combination with our biomarker diagnostic called DRP, or Drug Response Predictor platform. And what it does is and I'll speak more about it in just a moment, it allows us to use computer modeling and simulation and algorithm-based tools and the extensive amount of clinical data available out in the marketplace to identify which patients are more likely to respond to treatment. And as a result of that, the patients can benefit from treatment directly, and we can avoid giving treatment to patients who do not. And this has obviously been the goal of personalized care for many, many years, and I'm proud to say that we at Allarity Therapeutics have been able to solve that problem. We have a strong intellectual property with our computer simulating tools and models. We have an extensive management team that comes from big pharma, and we're continuing to move the company forward in the process of moving forward towards a U.S. NASDAQ listing for our business. Our pipeline is highlighted on this slide here in this diagram. We have, as I mentioned, 6 products. The top 3 products, again, are products that were acquired from big pharma, and I'm proud to say the lead product is a product called Vitnib, highlighted in the orange bar at the very top. And we are in the process of actually filing the NDA here in the U.S. This year. This is a very exciting product for renal cell carcinoma. It has gone through rigorous clinical trial testing. We have added to it the complexity of our DRP diagnostic biomarker, and as a result of that, been able to double the response rates of patients for that drug. And we hope to file and get approval in the very near term. We'll be one of the first companies to utilize computer modeling and simulation as part of an NDA filing in the U.S., which is a very, very exciting position to be. Our second lead compound is a product called Stenoprim. Stenoprim is in phase 2 development. It is a PARP inhibitor, phase 2 development for ovarian cancer. Again, we utilize our DRP diagnostic biomarker platform in combination with development of the drug and as a result, been able to significantly increase the response rates for these patients. This is a product that was acquired from Eisai Pharmaceuticals, and we're continuing its development as a result of the license agreement. The last lead product on our portfolio is a product called Exempra. This is a product that is already approved in the United States. We are seeking approval in Europe. Again, we take these excellent products, we add to it the complexity of our DRP biomarker tool, if you will, and then as a result of that, we can increase the response rates significantly. And this is really, quite frankly, unprecedented to be able to take drugs and double, in some cases, even triple the response rates. In a nutshell, what we do is we make good drugs even better by utilizing our biomarker diagnostic, unlike anything anyone has ever done. The remaining products in our portfolio, we've decided to partner and, again, utilizing the DRP, and it's an important part of our assets. I think it's also important to recognize that our second compound, Stenoprim, that I mentioned earlier, which is being developed for ovarian cancer, is also being investigated as an antiviral against various coronavirus. We've tested this early on in the year and have demonstrated that it has activity as a therapeutic against COVID-19. And we're in the process of continuing the testing for the two variants, the both British variant and the South African variant. So not only are we a company that has innovative oncology therapeutics with a best-in-class diagnostic biomarker that incidentally has been proven in the clinic, and I'll talk more about that in a moment, but we also have an agent that could be a therapeutic alternative to remdesivir in the treatment of COVID-19. So to give you a flavor of the company, we believe that our organization is substantial upside. And as a company, our market value is relatively small. And it's partly because we're somewhat unknown in the space, given the work that we've done. But I'm proud to say we're part of a group of companies that are beginning to get a tremendous amount of recognition. And if you look at the examples of some of these companies to the left, what you can see here is the market values of these companies are in the multiple billion-dollar market size from a valuation standpoint. And we are a company that has, if not larger portfolios, but have demonstrated the activity of our actual diagnostic platform, we believe there's tremendous upside for our company. This is a marketplace that is beginning to get a tremendous amount of attention. The use of computer algorithms, AI, and different modeling, simulating techniques, trying to model system biology has gotten a lot of interest. And I'm proud to say that Allarity is one of the few companies that have solved that problem and have demonstrated it in the clinic. Our management team, as you see here in the slide, is robust. We have an experienced group of individuals leading this effort, all of them with 25 plus years industry experience from both large and small companies, from some of the iconic companies that you can see on the slide here in front of you. They all have also a demonstrated track record of success, of successful exits and growth of organizations. I'm proud to have one of the best management teams developing this company than most, and we're excited about the folks bringing it all to life. It's important to recognize no one is doing this or cutting their teeth on this company. These are experienced individuals making a difference and really taking Allarity and turning it into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. So let me take some time to talk to you a little bit more about our DRP or drug response predictor technology or platform. I mentioned generally it utilizes computer algorithms and modeling approach and data processing to help identify the patients trying to or most likely respond. And what you can see on this cartoon depiction is, I think the typical historic treatment for cancer has been giving a drug to all comers. And of course, you get lower than the average patient benefit as a result of it. We as a company are trying to, we as a company has solved the problem and have identified a way to identify which patients would ultimately benefit. And we're one of the few companies that have demonstrated this approach utilizing our DRP. and have done it and have demonstrated it clinically, which is really, really important. So this is kind of the holy grail if you think about drug development. How do you identify the right patients with the right drug at the right time to get the right benefit? And that's what we at Allarity have been able to solve. So more about the DRP. I mean, this on the left panel depicts that, cancer is extraordinarily complex. And this diagram indicates the communication between all the respective genes in a one given type of pathway. That's just one pathway. And trying to understand that from a human perspective is very, very difficult. System biology is very complex. There are over 25,000 expressed genes in a given cancer or tumor. So what we've been able to do is take that information along with extensive amount of other information using transcriptomics, system biology, clinical data, data response data, and all pull that together in computer modeling and predictive tools and filtering out the noise. And as a result, then we can identify which patients would ultimately respond. It's a very sophisticated computer simulating tool. And we have been able to run this tool on billions of data points that have resulted in pretty complex results that have demonstrated affair. What we try to do is understand and let the tumor tell us what's important. Unlike many other companies, which try to identify one single biomarker, we try to identify which tumors, which data points are important to a specific disease. That informs us, and that allows us to identify which patients are likely to respond. So how does this work? It's very simple. What we do is we take a patient biopsies as standard fare for when someone is presented with cancer. They then are run through the DRP process, if you will, in signature, exposure, and testing. As a result, we can identify from that, after collecting the biopsies, running through the algorithms, and these are based on thousands of biopsy samples and clinical data in our database. We can identify basically a score, and that score would lead to stratifying those patients who would likely be high responders to treatment or low responders to treatment. And by virtue of doing that, we can specifically define that patient population and then identify which patients get the best benefit. And this is extraordinarily unique. Now, what's different about what we've been able to do as a company, in addition to actually our sophistication of our computer modeling, is that this has been clinically validated. And what that means is we've run clinical trials in a multitude of different cancers and a multitude of different products to determine and demonstrate that the actual platform or device or tool that we use is actually accurate. No company has been able to do that successfully. We have done it in over 35 different clinical trials, and we have demonstrated that we can, and this is just a sample of different kinds of products and different types of indications, we can actually double the response rates and triple the response rates for patients. And it's been validated in clinical studies. And that, quite frankly, is a huge differentiator when you think of biomarkers and how they work in the marketplace. So let me touch upon some of our 2 or 3 lead compound products in just a moment. The first is a product called Vitnib, and Vitnib is a pan-tyrosine kinase inhibitor. This was a drug that was developed by Novartis. They've invested over $50 million in its development, and we've been fortunate to be able to license the asset in. We're developing it for renal cell carcinoma, and renal cell carcinoma participates in a multi-billion-dollar market today. As you can see, the growth of this marketplace is pretty significant over the coming years, and this is an opportunity for us to really make a demonstrative difference in the treatment of the disease. I mentioned earlier, we are actually filing an NDA on this product this year as a company in combination with their DRP tool. And that really, quite frankly, is unprecedented for us as an organization. We're very excited about it. There are also other indications that we can go after, but we think it's going to be transformational as we think about bringing forward a tyrosine kinase inhibitor with a diagnostic biomarker demonstrating response rates and doubling categories. So by way of example, the next slide highlights for you a little bit of clinical data from some of our phase 3 clinical trials. And what you can see is when we apply our biomarker DRP tool, we can take what would normally be an 8% response rate to upwards of 18% response rates, which may not seem like an awful lot, but in the spirit of cancer treatment, that's pretty remarkable. what's really important too is we would be able then to identify which patients that don't need to be given treatment and therefore, quite frankly, would not benefit, and then let them avoid some of the safety challenges with other kinds of chemotherapies. But this is exciting data for us in a phase 3 setting with our DRP to be able to double response rates of existing products. As I mentioned, we take good products and we make them even better. Our second compound, I mentioned Stenoprim. This is a dual PARP inhibitor. This, as I mentioned earlier, was licensed from Eisai. It again has been validated, and our DRP is also included in this. The growth rates of PARP inhibitors, it's a class of drug that's got a tremendous amount of interest over the past few years. And as a result, we're developing this for ovarian cancer. What's unique about our PARP inhibitor is that we are providing a drug that's going to be a best in class, given the profile of PARP inhibitors in the marketplace. Again, another potential treatment that has the potential to work in combination with immunotherapy. But we've got a very, very unique product in that product itself. If you look at the competitive landscape, what you can see is that Stenoprim will be playing in a marketplace, with a number of companies that have already committed into the space, which really demonstrates the true value of these therapies and how they make a difference. What's unique about what we're trying to do and have done is that we have been demonstrated to increase the response rates of our PARP inhibitor far greater than others utilizing their DRP. In some cases, 3- and 4-fold increases in progression-free survival. We also don't have the challenges of toxicity that many of these drugs have today, and you can see that myelotoxicity is a big challenge. So we will be the first-in-class multi-targeted PARP inhibitor with improved efficacy, no myelotoxicity, no drug resistance, and ultimately improved patient outcomes. I mentioned Stenoprim for its work in COVID. We're really excited about this opportunity here. We've demonstrated and found that this is a potential treatment for COVID-19. We clearly need that in the market today. We're still going through the evaluation of it. We believe it's because it has a dual mechanism of action. It not only inhibits virus replication, but it also prohibits the cytokine storm, the anti-inflammatory effect that people get in their lungs. That is a problem with some of the cytokines, IL-6 and IL-1. This is pretty unique as the drug hits on 2 different approaches and a great complement to some existing therapy. We still have some work to do here, but we're very excited about bringing it forward. As I mentioned earlier, we're studying it in the British variant as well as the South African variant to determine its activity there as well. So very exciting program for us as well as a company. And then last but not least, Exempra, as I mentioned, product that's already approved in the U.S. for metastatic breast cancer. We've taken this product, licensed it in. We're adding our DRP to the mix, and then ultimately we're going to take it to the market. And what we can demonstrate, which I'll show in the next slide, is a demonstration in really significantly increasing the response rates for already approved drug in the U.S. from 11% to over 21%. Again, late-stage metastatic breast cancer is an ongoing problem. And by virtue of utilizing our diagnostic biomarker computer modeling approach, we've been able to increase response rates, and patients will ultimately benefit in Europe, and we hope to file that soon. Finally, from an intellectual property perspective, our DRP is, we are leading the pack as it relates to utilizing and getting IP on computer modeling and simulating approach towards improvement of patient therapy. We've got over 15 patents granted. We've got 19 more that are already pending, and we have a number of actually patents and DRPs that are developed not only for our own portfolio, but we develop them for other companies' portfolios as well. So we can improve other companies' products from other big pharma companies. And then last but not least, this is a summary of some of our upcoming milestones and value-creating events. We've got a very exciting future ahead of us with respect to the company. We are in the process of completing a rights issue with our existing investor base, but we're always welcoming new investors as we bring the company forward. We've got obviously a potential treatment for COVID, which is very, very exciting. We have an NDA filing for Vitnib here in the U.S. We have potential filings in the future as well. We've got the continuation of Stenoprim in ovarian cancer happening into next year as well, which is already underway at Dana-Farber Cancer Center here in the U.S. And then, of course, developing another option for metastatic breast cancer with Exempra is something that we are doing. So kind of in summary, we are a company that's got a very bright future ahead of us. We're taking and solving some of the most difficult problems, utilizing our computer modeling and biomarker diagnostic approach. We're also bringing forward some very exciting therapeutics that we believe are going to make a difference in the treatment of cancer. And ultimately, we believe it's going to change the way treatment will be for cancer going forward, which is ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring forward true personalized cancer care. And as I mentioned early on in my opening comments, as a company, we believe personalized cancer care has finally been realized, and we've been able to demonstrate it clinically. So I know I went through a lot. Let me pause there and pass it back to you, Frank, for any questions along the way.
Thank you very much, Steve, and thank you for your presentation. And we will open up for the questions. And let me just change the view. But I would like to start out, Steve, and you elaborated perfectly on the DRP platform and told about the increase in response rates. But could you tell us a little bit more on how you differentiate the platform from the competing products or platforms?
Yeah, it's a great question, Frank. So what typical companies do is they identify one single, let's say, biomarker or transcription factor expressed on a cancer cell. And the thinking is, well, if you can shut down, like if every cancer cell has the expression of, EGFR as an example, if you can shut down EGFR, then ultimately that's going to affect the cancer cell and ultimately die. That's a theory that most drug development is based on. The problem is cancer is very complex. It's never one item. It's got a microtumor environment. It's getting blood flow. It's getting gene expression. It's getting a number of transcription factors that are all playing a role. And the challenge for us as an industry is how do we figure all that out? Okay. And so what we've been able to do is of all the complexities that are in there, and there's a multitude, we let the tumor tell us which ones of those factors, if you will, whether it's gene expression, transcription factor, or otherwise, that are important to the cell survival. And we process all that data, and it's billions amount of data points. And then from that, then we can actually generate algorithms to determine, hey, with this kind of detail and this kind of profile, this is what this is what's important to this cancer cell. And then we can match that to the therapy. We can do that, and we've done this clinically, so which is very unique. So you'll still see a number of companies looking at one specific biomarker component, and that's good, but it's not enough. We see that by virtue of drugs today. People shut down certain progression, HER2/neu is an example, and then eventually, cancer is smart. It finds a way around it because it's got different pathways. We figure out a multitude of pathways. We understand a lot more about the cancer than I think most diagnostic biomarkers do today. So hopefully that gives you a little more clarity.
Thank you. And also, so with respect to Vitnib, could you tell us a little bit more about the FDA process where you actually adding, as I understood, the DRP to the compound?
Yeah, so what we do is in the US, you actually put together a filing, an NDA, new drug application package together. Typical drug development that's solo, independent of any kind of biomarker. We also do, so what we've done is we're combining the filing of the NDA, and then we also do a filing for the diagnostic piece, which is a different division, if you will. But the two actually come married together at some point when the review is done. And so you send a filing out, the FDA has a period of time to review they review the clinical data, they review the diagnostic data, and ultimately they look at two things. Is there an overall survival advantage? In other words, are you living longer? Or two, are you getting progression-free survival? Excuse me, you're getting basically the disease stabilized for a longer period of time. And so that information is all submitted to the FDA, and they take a period of time. Now, if it's extraordinarily compelling, they can review it in a very short period of time. If it's a lot of data, it may take longer. It could take upwards to a year at most. So it's difficult to predict what the how long it will take the FDA, but we're very excited. We've had our pre-NDA meetings. We've got our our PMA, which is already the diagnostic component, filed, and we're excited about filing NDA. We're one of the few companies in the industry today that will be doing filing NDA with the diagnostic platform and utilizing computer modeling. We'll be the only company, quite frankly, I think, if and when it's approved. A lot of companies are trying to do it. You hear a lot of talk about AI. You hear a lot of talk about computer modeling. None of them have been actually clinically validated. They've got theory, they've got ideas, they got computer algorithms, but what they haven't done is actually a clinical study showing the before and after. And we've actually done that over 35 times. So we're pretty excited.
Okay, and then a question regarding your coronavirus compound. Is DRP a part of that too, or not?
No, DRP is not part of that. That is strictly looking at its efficacy, if you will, against the virus. So we, like many companies during the pandemic, we took the time to go and evaluate whether or not our potential portfolio had a role to play. And as luck would have it, we did find that this one did, and that's pretty exciting to be part of that potential solution. We still have more work to do there, but we're again very excited about potentially being another therapeutic in a treatment of COVID-19, and we're still waiting for the results of our the British variant and South African variant, which would be the only company, quite honestly, that would have demonstrated activity against that. That's very exciting. But either way, this is a potential therapy. Right now, the only approved therapy is remdesivir in worldwide, and obviously there's some monoclonal antibodies that are going through development. But for a company, for that alone, we think the company is extraordinarily, undervalued. And so, we're excited about seeing the growth that's before us. We're expecting our company to be significantly larger over the coming months.
Okay. Then a question from one of the investors saying, which competitor is closest to you, for example, clinical trials with their DRP, with your DRP platform? And then a second question goes to the companies that you do comparing with on one of the slides, that we can all see they have less assets but bigger in valuation. Then there's a question about if the assets that you compare yourself with the other companies is they more desirable, or do you have any explanation of that?
Yeah. So what I can say is, there are other companies that are on different markets than we are. And what I mean by markets is we obviously are on the First North NASDAQ in Europe. Many of these companies are on a US NASDAQ market. So the visibility and awareness of those companies is far greater than it is of ours today. Obviously, we're in the process of trying to change that. So one is they get far more awareness and recognition in the marketplace. The second is, their investor base has grown, and pretty rapidly. Not too long ago, these companies were the same size as we are. Once they've migrated to the US NASDAQ market, they've grown exponentially. The great example is the Cure Oncology company, which is on that slide, which is the multi-billion-dollar market. They have one asset. One asset in clinical development. In fairness, it is in phase 3 drug in development. It's not in the same indication as ours. It's in a completely different indication. But what's different is they've not actually validated their diagnostic platform. So there's a lot of excitement and interest there, which we think is a good thing, because it does validate what we're doing. What's different, though, is they have not proven it yet. And so, my view is if you like that, you're going to like us even more. And so, and I think the market is going to have a great appetite, and already has, for companies that come forward with very unique diagnostic biomarker approaches, different than what else is out there. And we're going to let the data speak for itself. That's what's going to drive the value of our company, is the data and our NDA filing. So we're very excited. Great question, though.
So if everything goes as planned, when could Vitnib generate first sales together with DRP?
Yeah, well, it's impossible for me to predict the exact date, because you're asking me to predict what the FDA is going to do and how they're going to do it. So unfortunately, I can't give you that date. What I can say is that the typical time period is it can be anywhere from 6 months to a year based on your filing. But I cannot make that prediction. It's impossible to say. I would say for a company our expectation is over the next 5 years, we will have a number of commercial related opportunities for us from our existing portfolio. And, hopefully it's sooner rather than later, but that's the best we can do because it's difficult to predict it. But I can tell you this, the second that we receive an FDA approval, we're going to the market immediately. And one of the benefits of having a drug that has already kind of been vetted, if you will, through big pharma processes, and many of us, including myself from management, have come from big pharma, is that they've gone through a lot of what I'll characterize as the heavy lifting. So items like manufacturing has been addressed and already proactively been taken care of, supply chain, basically dosing. There's a lot of components that big pharma goes through when they vet a product, and we're the beneficiary of a lot of that. And so, unlike some of the other smaller biotech companies that we were talking about earlier, they are going to have to resolve a lot of potential issues prior to commercialization. We, on the other hand, can move much faster. And so, all I can tell you is stay tuned. Commercialization is in front of us.
And with respect to the COVID indication, what is the plan and timeline for entering into clinics with that?
Yeah, so as soon as we, you're dealing with extraordinarily complex viruses here, right? Getting access and doing testing in the British variant and the South African variant is no easy task. It's not like you can go out and just grab patients out of the marketplace. We're dealing with the Arizona University bio facility that basically handles very challenging viruses, a virology organization. Only 2 places in the entire country that manage this kind of stuff, and there are only a few places around the world to do it. It's very, very time consuming and very complex. They're working extraordinarily hard to try to do our testing and come back forward as quickly as we can. But we're talking about some really, really critical things here. It's not like a clinical trial that you just go out and do. So these are controlled laboratories with extraordinarily, complete hazmat suit type controls. And so the process is very regulated. It's very controlled. We are in the process right now of conducting the studies. I can tell you this, if the results come out as we hope, then we'll move extraordinarily fast into clinical studies. And this is one of the benefits, sadly, of having other COVID patients out there is once you have a therapy in clinic, you can get COVID patients to actually be interested in getting treated on it. And so, and there's not a lot of drugs being developed for COVID-19 in the clinic, if you will, right now. So, it could be a potential solution to play in combination with some of the existing therapies that could make a difference. So I guess all I can say is stay tuned. As soon as we have the results, we'll be sure to communicate it as quickly as we can.
Okay, so perhaps time flies and we have to start soon to end our event, but perhaps as a wrap up, you could tell a little bit about your current run rate and perhaps also what would be the next event or next thing that you would advise investors to keep and close eyes to.
Yeah, I think the last slide in my presentation deck probably highlights it best as it relates to what are our next big series of events. Obviously, we're completing our rights issue. We're in a S4 process for U.S. listing, which is I can't comment on, and that's moving forward. And then, of course, our NDA filing. These are all big, exciting events for a company of our size. There are not many companies, I can say today in the oncology space that have such a unique approach and are filing an NDA with a therapeutic. We are one of the very few, and that's a great investment opportunity, we believe, for our investors. And so we're looking for that excitement ahead, and it's just hopefully in the very near future. And so I say look to those events. They're probably our big milestones over the course of the coming months. So exciting. So stay tuned.
Cool. I think that will end up our session with you today. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak, and thanks to all of you who had questions. I see that there's still a lot of questions that was not answered, but perhaps we can do a follow-up session soon so everybody's got their answer cleared. But thanks to Steve and thanks to all.
Thanks, Frank, and thanks for the opportunity. We'll look forward to a future session as well.